Okay, so either you or your roofer have gone through the supplementing process that we talked about in the last video. Well, what happens if your insurance company just won't pay the amount that your roofer is charging you? Hi everybody, this is Tracy Bookman, owner of Homestead Roofing, and this is episode 5 in our video series called The 7 Things You Need to Know About the Insurance Claim Process. In the last episode, we talked about the insurance supplement process. We talked about what an insurance supplement is, why it's necessary, what to expect during the process, and what your roofer may or may not do if the insurance company doesn't come to some sort of a reasonable compromise or even match the roofer's invoice amount completely. In today's video, I want to help you understand what happens. What's within your rights to do as a homeowner if the insurance company just decides that they're going to play hardball and they're not going to meet your roofer's invoiced amount or his estimate, and not even really try to come close to any kind of a reasonable compromise. So if there's a big difference between where your insurance company's claim amount is and where your roofer's estimate for the work to be done is, or maybe it's your roofer's invoice for work that's already done, then there's one important question, and that one question is, do you have replacement cost value coverage on your policy? Because if you have what's known as RCV coverage on your policy, then your insurance company needs to pay to replace your roof and get you back to pre-storm conditions. And not only do they need to pay to replace the roof, but they also need to pay to replace components that need to be replaced when the roof gets replaced. And what I mean by that is we all understand that replacing the roof means that you have to replace the shingles. But there are other things that can get damaged during the tear off of the old roof. Things like pipe flashings, underlayment, vents, wall flashings. So all of these kinds of things can get damaged during the tear off of the roof, and they have to be replaced because you don't want to put damaged material back on. Sometimes an insurance company will ask a homeowner or a contractor to do that, to reuse what they call undamaged material. If it wasn't damaged by the storm, they think that it can just be reused. Well, insurance companies save millions of dollars by not having to pay for those kind of components. The problem with that is your roofing contractor, if he reuses those kind of materials, he can't really warrant the workmanship on it. So if those components fail and he didn't replace it, then you really have no warranty on the roof. So that's why it's important that those things get replaced. So what do you do if your insurance company is a long way from where they need to be and you have RCV coverage on your policy? Now there are a few different options for you, but one of the most effective options is appraisal, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, appraisal is a procedure that is normally allowed under the terms of the contract that you have with your insurance company, otherwise known as your policy. And appraisal is designed to be a neutral and objective method for determining what the scope of work and the costs for that work should be. The way that it works is if the insurance company won't come up with a reasonable amount in the claim to restore you to pre-storm conditions, then the homeowner requests that the process go into appraisal. This is otherwise known as invoking an appraisal. Now, under most insurance policies, appraisal isn't an option for the insurance company. It's the homeowner's right to request it. Then the homeowner needs to contact an independent insurance appraiser, not adjuster. It's a very important distinction, an appraiser. I wouldn't recommend that you just go out onto Google and try to Google insurance appraiser. You want to make sure that you're getting somebody that you trust can represent you. Because remember, this person is representing you in an effort to get you fully indemnified in your claim. So your roofer may have a recommendation for an appraiser. You may be able to talk to friends, family, coworkers, people that have kind of gone through this process before, and try to find somebody that will represent you well. Once this process kicks off, then the insurance company also has to hire an appraiser. Now, these two appraisers meet on site at your property. At least that's the way that it's designed to work. Some appraisers want to do it virtually, and I wouldn't recommend that. I would make sure that you get an appraiser that's going to actually meet on site at the property. So these two appraisers meet at the property, and they try to evaluate the scope of work for the project that needs to be done or was to have been done. Maybe the project's already completed, and they're going to look at everything and make a determination about what the scope of work is going to be. So they're going to take lots of notes, they're going to take measurements probably, they're going to take photos. Then once all that is done, they might meet right there on site, or they might go meet off site somewhere and talk about the scope of the project. They're going to compare their notes, and that's when they're going to work out what the scope of work needs to be and what the costs of material and labor should be to accommodate that specific scope of work that they have agreed upon. One thing to keep in mind about this is this decision process is binding. So whatever the two appraisers agree upon, that decision is basically the final step in this process. So the owner and maybe the contractor need to accept the decision of the two appraisers. Well, what happens if they can't agree on it? Well, if the two appraisers can't come to a decision, then it goes to an arbiter, otherwise known as an umpire. The umpire has the final decision in the appraisal process. So he or she is looking at all of the information provided by the two appraisers and is going to make a decision based on that information. All the parties concerned have to abide by the decision made by the umpire, meaning the two appraisers, the insurance company, the homeowner, any contractors involved. That is the final decision, just as if the two appraisers had come to that decision themselves. Does it cost to invoke appraisal? Yes, each appraiser is going to charge for his services, and that cost really is dependent on a couple of things. It depends on how far apart the insurance company is from the actual scope of work and the costs associated with that scope of work, but it also depends on how much work the appraiser needs to do in the appraisal process. Who pays for the appraiser? Well, payment for the appraiser is really the responsibility of the homeowner, since the appraiser is working on the homeowner's behalf. Why would I pay someone to do something like this? Well, if the difference between your contractor's estimated or invoiced amount and your insurance claim amount is relatively small, then it's probably not going to be worth it for you to try to get an appraiser involved. It's not going to be worth your time and expense, since you have to pay the appraiser. It's not going to be worth it for your contractor to wait for the appraisal process, to start and finish. And it's definitely not going to be worth it for the appraiser to get involved in something that is so small in scope that he can't monetarily make it worth his time. However, if the cost difference is relatively large, then it can definitely be worth it. For example, right now we're working with a homeowner on a relatively small project, but surprisingly the insurance company is about $3,000 short in the claim. So if the appraisal process ends up costing the homeowner $1,000 and it results in a $3,000 increase to the homeowner, and that homeowner doesn't have to pay that $3,000 out of pocket, then it's definitely worth it for that homeowner. And another example, last summer we were working with a homeowner who had a specialty roofing material on his house. As far as I know, it was the only house in Colorado Springs that had this particular roofing material. So the costs to replace this roof were about $43,000, and the insurance company was about $20,000 too low, and that was because they'd never seen it before, and their estimating software called Xactimate had no clue what it was and couldn't account for the correct costs to replace that roof. So in situations like that, it's definitely worth getting an appraiser involved in the process. So I hope this video has been helpful. If you've got questions, feel free to give us a call at our office phone number right up here, 719-433-6991. You can also visit our website. That's right down here, homesteadroofingcolorado.com. We've got a ton of information out there, lots of other videos, lots of blog articles. Please be sure to give us a big thumbs up on this video. And if you'd like us to answer your question in a video, please leave that question in the comment section down below. We read and respond to all questions that we get on our videos. Also, please subscribe to our channel, click the bell icon up there so that way you get notified when we've got new videos. And until our next video, I'm Tracy Bookman, owner of Homestead Roofing.